Les Boatwright,
Here.
Joe Zach,
Here.
David McDowell,
Here.
Bridget McCandless, Jerry Tyndall,
Here.
Anthony Jeremita.
Okay. Could I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the October 21st, November 18th meeting?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Who's in second? All in favor?
Aye.
Dean? Yes.
Larry Porter, Les Boatwright,
Yes.
Joe Zach,
Yes.
David McDowell,
Yes.
Jerry Tyndall.
Yes.
Motion passed. All right, now we're gonna roll right into reports on the financial administration. First question is on the utility financial reports, October 2021.
Hi,
Hi.
nice to meet you. Once again, we are on track with our percentages and everything is looking really good going forward for the end of October. November looks very well as well. The only thing that really stands out would be, we did make a bond principal and interest payment for the water department. So other than that, everything is just running right on track.
Okay. Any questions for our finance? Hearing none. Okay, municipal services. They here today?
Yeah, we never get to go first.
Oh, there he is.
Sorry, I wasn't prepared. We never get to go first, so I was caught off guard. Not a whole lot to update. Unfortunately, I'm going to sound like a broken record here with our lime stabilization project. We're still on hold, waiting for some of the equipment. Pardon me?
What project?
The lime stabilization, the biosolids project at the treatment plant. We are still on hold, waiting for the majority of the equipment. It's still in Europe. We're supposed to be getting it by the middle of next month. That's what they're telling us. So I'm going to say probably February. And once we get that, it's just a couple of months away from completion. So we would shoot for late April, early May, that we will hopefully be land applying our biosolids rather than land filling our biosolids.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Is that gonna affect the budget amount that we have for that project?
No. You mean as far as what?
The delay of everything, is that what it is?
No, we're on track as far as budget's concerned. Just everything's been pushed back a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, because of the national thing on,
Just everything's shipping, supply chain issues.
Yeah, just the supply chain issues like that. I mean, it's going to cost us essentially, it's going to cost the same. It's just pushed back on everything.
okay.
We did plan for this just in case though. So initially we were expecting to be done by, if y'all remember, September, October of 2021. Just in case we budgeted a little bit extra for the fees for landfilling. So we were preparing for this, and I think we'll be okay.
Okay. Any more questions for municipal services?
I do have a question about that.
Yep.
What kind of tonnage do we go through as far as putting in the landfill? I'm just curious on that one. And then the new equipment or the new materials that are coming, is that an environmental benefit or a cost savings or both?
So first question, off the top of my head, the exact tonnage, I'm not sure. I know we do it twice a day, 5 days a week is what we're picking up, or they will pick it up and take it to the landfill. And I want to say it's around 2 tons-ish. Don't quote me on that without looking at the numbers each time. So roughly 4 to 5 tons a day. And as you imagine, that's a lot. That's a lot going into the landfills. It is an environmental surety angle that we're coming from for the biosolids for the land applying itself. It will save money ultimately, but it's definitely more environmentally friendly than doing the incineration, which is what we were doing before the past 30 plus years. So there's some benefit there for sure.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay, thanks, sir. Water?
Kind of like Mike, we don't have a huge thing to add here today, but I did want to give some good news that we have notice to proceed has been issued to Lineweaver Construction Incorporated to begin the replacement of approximately 4,226 feet of 6 and 8 inch cast iron, replacing the cast iron main along Gudgel. So if you can visualize where I'm talking about on Gudgel, if you know where the Dodgen water tower is, where the Miracle Mile is, there's a water tower. You can just envision, go from Dodgen and then head back, you know, from Nolan Road back to the east to Kings Highway. So it's not a mile, but it's a long stretch all the way to Kings Highway. And just kind of give you a picture, we've had 50 main breaks in the last 20 years along there. So this is what we want to be spending our money on, and in order to stop, you know, this from happening and having people out of water and that type of thing. So this is a big deal. The project's is $1.1 million, $1,165,000, and the contractor plans to start in early January and be done next summer. So that's where we want to be going, and it's a positive thing. I just wanted to talk about it.
Is that pretty much then from what, Nolan Road east?
Yeah, if you're like a Dodgen, it's like maybe a block off to the west, or be east of Nolan Road there, and then just continue going east. Most of it's going to be on the north side of the road, but it starts off on the east side and crosses over. But I'm sure those neighbors that have been affected, had these main breaks through the years, are going to be glad. We're going to be moving it out from underneath the road too. So if there ever is something go on, it won't be in the road to tear up again.
Okay, Dan, I don't know what a stupid question, but is there anything that correlates with the street department on improving that road? That's an awful narrow road there and a big drop off.
Yeah, those don't necessarily line up where, you know, we would look at that. We don't want to go in and lay a main where it's usually the other way around. If they're doing construction and we know that we have mains that need to be moved and replaced, we would try to do it at the end. But usually our mains, these are, I think, what was the year? 1948, 1949 mains. That doesn't necessarily line up with where they need to do their road work. So,
Yeah.
But to answer your question, we try to coordinate that, but there's not any guarantee that they're going to match up. What we don't want to do is have them lay a brand new road and then us come in and cut it. So if we see that they're going to be doing a project, we would alter our projects to match theirs.
You're going to cross the road down there at that curve?
I think so. I've got the exact, because I figured somebody like you would ask that. But I can tell you where they cross is Hawker Avenue, which is not open, but I could show this to you afterwards.
No problem.
If you would like. But most of it's on the north side of the road, just by the nature of the way that road, where it cuts over there. You're right, Larry.
You got a new piece of main going in on that subdivision, don't you? Down there?
And there may be, I didn't get to that kind of detail on this.
Well, I mean, it's newer than that old main, I know.
Right. Well, I'd hope most of it, you know, that's 1948, 49.
Well, no,
It's got
this
some
was
age
put
on it.
in the 70s and 80s.
And again, you know, we've got 100-year-old mains that don't break. So it's not necessarily a good indicator just because it's old. It just happens to be.
That's the ones I helped lay.
There, maybe. Okay, I won't go. I'll stop right there.
Thank you, Dan.
I've got a follow-up question to that, if I may.
Yeah.
Stormwater, I'm not sure what's through there. Is it open ditches or are there curbs and gutters on that part? I
That's
drive
open
through it, I
ditches.
don't know.
Open ditches there.
I don't believe there's curbs and gutters right there.
Okay, is that something you check with stormwater on possibility of doing that kind of a project there where you were doing it, or?
I haven't heard.
Okay, just curious. I know a lot of times they'll do some of that to go in and fix a problem or help with it as it gets put back in, so.
And there might not be an issue in that spot with the stormwater, obviously.
There may not
If there
be.
was, then we would, and if we saw them about ready to break ground, we would certainly try to
Okay.
coordinate something.
Just kind of curious. Thanks.
Most of them would be where we were cutting someone's driveway and all that type of thing. We would be replacing that. So if we cut a curb or a sidewalk or the road, anything we would cut, we would obviously repair. So, but not to the extent that you're talking about.
If I may, just add real quick. You know, anytime we have a capital project, we do work as a team to coordinate those to the extent we can. But as a reminder, stormwater is not a utility. It's a sales tax-based service. So we're somewhat limited in the funding availability there.
Thank you, Adam. All right, our favorite thing, IPL.
Well, probably the biggest thing is last night's storm. We had at the peak, we had, I think, 56 different outages affecting a couple of thousand people. By morning, that was down to about 200 people. And I think as of this afternoon, we were down to the final dozen or so outages. And that's with, we're almost at half strength. So the crews were out there doing a phenomenal job out there in all that wind and rain, working to keep those outages, get them processed as fast as they could. We've got several capital projects that are going on. The biggest one is our rebuild of Substation K, which is just north of 39th Street there on Arrowhead. That one, we still have some construction work to do over the winter, and everything should be ready to light up the new substation in early spring. We also have some other capital projects going on, a capacitor bank that we're installing at Substation A, there by the Blue Valley plant, a rebuild of Substation E, which is down in the southwest part of town, and rebuilding the transmission line from Substation E up to Substation F. It's along the western border of town. That's a line we purchased from Kansas City Power and Light a number of years ago. It was undersized then, and even more so now. So that's a project that's been going on for a couple of years to rebuild that. That one we're hitting some delays, both because of manpower and because of availability of parts. Believe it or not, not only are manufactured goods hard to come by, we can't even get certain size poles. So it's our supply group is doing a marvelous job working, overturning every stone they can to look for ways to get parts, even making deals with other utilities to trade parts where we've got extra and somebody has something we need. So we're working every angle we can to try to overcome the supply issue. But those projects are all moving forward. There were some questions about future generation options. I know one question last week was if we could get a picture of all the plants, and that was sent to you today, this morning, I believe, just an overhead shot that has all the ones that we contract with as well as our own. And if you have any questions about those plants, we can certainly discuss those. One of the questions that came up both at council and here at PUAB was the question of nuclear and what does that mean? Obviously, I'm a proponent with my background. Joe's a nuclear guy as well, but the real problem there is the regulatory environment and the permit process. Just to give you an example, right now there's only 2 plants in the United States under construction. They were permitted in 2012. So we're going on 10 years since they were originally requested permission. They hope to have them online in 21 and 22. Well, 21's almost gone and it hasn't come online yet. So they're hoping for 2022. So about a 10-year process. Small modular reactors is another thing that's been a popular discussion, and those are small reactors that are like 50 megawatts or less. Usually a nuclear reactor is more in the range of 1,000 megawatts. So these small modular ones have been a popular subject of discussion. There's one company in the United States that currently has a permit for that design. They went into business in 2008. 2012, they finally had their application ready to submit. It wasn't until 2016 that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission finished the first piece of that review. 2 years later, they cleared the next 3 hurdles. That's just design. They still have to go through permitting for the actual site location, permitting for construction, and then once construction's done, they go through this whole thing all over again to get permission to turn it on. they've been since 2008. They've been working on this small modular concept. They're now working with a group out of Utah. They've just this year gotten the okay to start working on their demonstration project. So nothing in the nuclear world goes very quickly. The last two that actually came online in the United States were in 2016. Then those were the first ones in 20 years. So nuclear moves very slow. Most of it's because of just the quagmire that the permit process takes. And they've spent on that, the small modular project, that's right now they're looking at a design that's approximately 77 megawatts. They've spent over $1 billion developing this. So that's probably out of the ballpark for independence. And even for a cooperative agreement with MPUA and some others, that's still, you have to have very deep pockets to survive the permitting process before you finally can start making some money.
Can I question? Is the company you're talking about New Scale?
Yes, new scale.
Okay. From my research, they've received, I'm sorry. They received like $1.4 billion from the federal government on their, in grants and to help develop the technology. Would there be a way that my feeling on this is if you're going to do this, you need to get in on the ground floor or it doesn't become cost efficient. Long term, from what I'm reading, and I'm no expert in nuclear power, it seems like a reliable, efficient, clean source of energy that the fuel in these reactors will last 20 years. It's not going to be affected by the fluctuation in natural gas or coal prices. I'm very interested to know as much as I can about this.
Yes. The 1.4 billion, that's the total investment that they've gotten from about half a dozen different partners that have joined with them. They've got about 300 to 400 million in direct aid from the Department of Energy for startup concepts, development concepts, some different programs that the Department of Energy sponsored. You're right. It is, once it's built, it's very cheap to operate because you don't have to refuel it. It is a clean source. It's the construction, the permitting, the design, and it's very, very much a very heavy upfront investment that you have to carry on the books for years before you finally start getting to generate. And that's really the big obstacle for nuclear is the construction phase.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else got questions? Hearing none, guess we'll go to the upcoming items. How are we doing on the annual audit on the pilot? We're about ready to have it next meeting. Anybody know?
Maybe. The audit is coming to a close, so it's not finalized yet. So it'll either be next meeting
Or the one after?
Or the one after, yeah.
Okay. And we talked about the development of future generation. Guess we can keep working and checking on other sources, I guess, Jim. I don't know.
Well, one of the things I'm working on is a presentation that will show kind of a timeline of all of our assets, when they drop off, what that does to our capacity requirement, and show kind of what options we have to fit all of those pieces together. On the 15-year electric consumption study, we've been working on that. And I think David was the one who asked about the impact of electric vehicles and what that's going to do to our distribution network. And the short answer is not much. Our load growth is projected to be in the single digits, very low, steady growth over the next 10, 15 years. Several studies Mark is currently updating theirs. TVA did a study of their entire service area, and right now, electric vehicles over the next 10, 15 years are only expected to add about 2% a load, which for our distribution network, 2%, it's not even going to notice. So there's not much that we have to do to prepare for electric vehicle charging. The exception would be if we were to put in several of the fast DC charging stations, because many of those require a transformer just to provide service to that station. That would be an investment we would have to put in. But as far as our neighborhood networks and home charging stations, very little impact.
Have we put any more stations in?
No, we haven't put any in recently.
Okay. All right. Anybody else got anything?
Mr. Chair, if I may. As some of you might be aware, my last day with Lawburn Municipal Law is tomorrow. I took in a position with the Attorney General's office. I start before the end of the year. So today I brought with Katie Gersner. She's an associate in the firm. She also specializes in utility matters, and so she will be available for the board and for city staff moving forward after tomorrow. So I just want to thank you for everything, and I've had a blast coming here. So
Sarah, we want to thank you so much. You've been a big help to all of us. At least,
that is not necessary.
that's why I didn't do it.
Thank you.
All right. We'll expect you in the next meeting. Has she got cards made up yet? Pass them out.
She's got cards. We've got cards. All cards.
Okay. You received a handout from one of our citizens. You might want to read that. It's not on the agenda. We won't discuss it at this time. But if,
Mr. Porter, if I could
well, I
add
was going
something.
to get to you, Adam.
Sir?
Just for your information, but if you have anything you want to bring up on the letter at our next meeting, we can. And now, Mr. Adam, what do you got, buddy?
All right. Just wanted to close the loop on something that the board requested at the last meeting, which was a public forum of sorts. My understanding is that the public hearing that occurred a couple weeks ago at the council meeting essentially satisfied that request, but I want to make sure that is consistent with what the board's intent is.
Well, it was pretty quick to schedule, I know. A lot of people didn't get the information. I think we should look further down the line to have a larger one, maybe, where we notify them a meeting ahead. See if we can get more people in and their feelings. Again, I'm leery of doing it because of the capacity that we can have here. We might have to have it someplace else, and we need to have it itemized as to what exactly we're having the topic on. Or maybe one or two topics, because if we don't, we run off into the charges, you know, the high water bill, high power bill. And we discussed that so many times, and we try to do the best we can with it, but I don't know that we're going to ever do that. So well, let's look at it for later on down the line and discuss it. And we can discuss that on the phone, if you want to call me and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
All right. Any comments from the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I was at that public hearing as well as some of the other PUAB, and that I don't think really was the intent of what we decided. It was put out pretty quick
Yeah.
on that Wednesday before Thanksgiving, have your stuff in by 5 o'clock to present. Didn't give us a lot of time to prepare, and we had just started really talking about the concept of a public meeting, not a hearing, because, if we decide we're going to build a new power plant, then we can have a hearing and get people's feelings, but it's really more of a discussion on several things. I know Bridget wanted to talk about rates and different things like that. We talked about bringing emergency preparedness in to talk a little bit. So it's more of an informational seminar workshop than it is a hearing. And yeah, I know this letter talks about our right to do hearings, but really it's when we've got a decision to make. Would be the time to do the hearing. So yeah, I don't think the meeting we had, the city council had their hearing. I appreciate Director Naylor coming up, or Naylor, you nailed him. Director Nail coming up and doing the presentation he did on a lot of the information that we've talked about here. But that really wasn't what our intent was from the original get-go on it. So I think, like our chair here said, we'll take a look at doing one later after we've had time to kind of flesh out the agenda and get some speakers lined up and things and have a real purpose for that. Just my thoughts.
Very good, I appreciate it. Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. I want to echo what Les just said. Basically, everything I'm in agreement with, and then the amount of notice. I think we should have at least one city scene publication out. However, people receive that information, so that it is a message that it's an established meeting or workshop or whatever we want to call this, what the purpose is, who's welcome, etc. I don't get too folksy about it, but, be warm and welcome that these ratepayers are, the target audience, and we want to exchange ideas with them, but not get out of hand, which is, it's tricky. So I agree with the chairman about that.
Okay, anybody else? This meeting's adjourned.
Sherry, do you get City Scene? I don't get City
Well,
Scene.
isn't it on online now?
I get it in the mail,
Well,
the bill, so I don't go online.